What's up guys, it's Blue. This video is going to be my 7.3.5 tanking guide for Antorus the Burning Throne using the tier 21 4-piece. First thing I'm going to do is go over talents. Thankfully there's only one real spec that's working for us right now, so that makes it easy. The only rows that are up to the player are row 15 and 60, with 15 being either Warbringer or Shockwave. I like both and understand the argument for both. I just like Warbringer personally. As for row 60, if you're running the tier 21 4-piece and the tier 22 piece, then your only option is going to be Warlord's Challenge due to the synergy with the tier 22 piece to generate rage. If not, I like Bounding Stride for the quality of life movement speed, but Crackling Thunder is also nice for the increased radius, and Warlord's Challenge still gets some use even if you don't have tier 22 piece. As for the rest of the build, it's going to be the staple. According to Wowhead's talent calculator, which shows the percentage of picks for each boss, 99% of Mythic Prot tanks for warriors are taking Inspiring Presence, Renewed Fury, Devastator, Booming Voice, and Anger Management. Reason being, all of those talents revolve around our kit being based around generating as much rage as possible, then dumping it into Ignore Pains and Shield Blocks to reduce damage taken. Only variance from that is the final two bosses, which are very block reliant, in which 25% of Mythic Prot warriors are using heavy repercussions due to all the blockable damage between Agrimar and Argus. As for legendaries, the best legendary bar none is Kakushan's Stormscale Gauntlets. More rage generation and more damage for Shield Slam is perfect for this tier. After that, Thunder God's Vigor and Manaros Bloodletting Manacles are both very strong depending on the fight. The braces are only self-heal that actually is going to regenerate health, unlike how Ignore Pain counts as healing, but it's just an absorb shield. As for Thunder God's Vigor, it just further reduces the cooldown for Demoralizing Shout, which we use very often with this spec because of Booming Voice. Either of those pair very well with Kakushan's for most fights, with the belt being better on AoE fights like Antor and High Command. After that, the legendaries are pretty situational, and I got all of this information from Wowhead again, being able to see what legendaries were used for each fight. Up until Varimathras, those are going to dominate the legendary picks. For Varimathras, Kakushans and Blood Mirror are used the most due to Blood Mirror being able to give the extra charge for Spell Reflection, reducing the damage taken by Shadow Strike, just making his main source of damage outside of an auto attack when you have Misery more manageable. Varimathras starts a line of bosses that Blood Mirror emerges more often than it does in the beginning. And it was even used for every single warrior Argus kill that was on Mythic difficulty, which I thought was really interesting. The Walls Fell is also a really good option after those because it's just going to reduce the cooldown of Shield Wall and give you a little bit of extra rage, but the first three that I listed are the best trinkets that the best legendaries that you're going to want to go after. And then if you don't have those, it's just going to be pretty situational with which one you're going to be using. There are multiple good trinkets in Antorus. Problem is, Agrimar's Conviction or Amonthul's Vision, if you're lucky, is going to take up one of those slots, so you're going to have to decide between the 5 other trinkets for the one slot that you'll have available. They're all very different, and a few are extremely unique. And starting from the front, we have the Eye Trinket off of Fellhounds, which is one of the most unique, changing either into a Stamina Versatility Trinket or a Strength Armor Trinket, while also buffing your co-tank with either Versatility or Armor, if each of you have the different one equipped. So that one's pretty nice, giving flat mitigation through the entire fight via Versatility or Armor, but it doesn't do anything just spectacularly. Moving to Riftworld Codex, this trinket has 3 procs per minute, giving it more uptime than any of the use trinkets, and is there to just curve your damage intake throughout the fight via heal or an absorption shield, and it also has a small amount of damage that it can deal that will also heal you for 300% of the damage dealt, and it's an 8-yard aura. This makes it a very strong trinket and one of the better ones in this raid. Kingaroth drops Apocalypse Drive, which is my least favorite, being a use that reduces damage by up to 10 melee attacks for 20 seconds. This could be a strong trinket for Mythic Plus for tanking. I don't have it and haven't tested it, but I think there are other trinkets that outclass it, like the Coven of Shivara. I think does the same thing, just a little better, because it's going to give you strength plus armor when you use the use effect, and the armor is going to be usable for all physical attacks that are coming in other than just melee attacks, which is why I think the Dima's Glacial Aegis off of Coven is going to be better than Apocalypse Drive. The last trinket is from Agrimar, and that's Smoldering Titan Guard. This gives you a very large shield for 3 seconds that makes you nearly unkillable, then explodes for some damage. Only drawback is you can't move during the shield. This I find helpful for Argus because it alone can absorb a high sweeping scythe, and also I like it when pugging Agrimar because it's inevitable that when you have a pug tank, he's going to either die or screw up the Tachelash technique, and this trinket makes it so that if you have to take both hits of the foe breaker, it's going to make it pretty easy to take them both. Of the 5 trinkets, Riftworld Codex is my favorite, as it's an every fight trinket that is going to be able to give you some sort of help with every single fight. And then either Dima's Glacial Aegis or Smoldering Titan Guard would be my other options if I'm not going to use Riftworld Codex. As for the rotation, we're all about using Shield Slam as much as possible. Speccing into Devastator is now the sole way to go, and it gives us a lot of rage generation through its chance to reset the cooldown of Shield Slam. If Shield Slam is on cooldown, then you have to make a simple decision between Revenge and Thunderclap. There's really only 2 instances that you should be using Revenge before Thunderclap. First is if it's a burn phase, kind of like Kingoroth when he spawns the ads. Using Revenge will deal more damage to the target, so that would be worth using if you're trying to deal damage. The other is if you're nearly rage capped, you have a full 3 stacks of Ignore Pain active, then you're going to dump your rage into Revenge. Other than that, the priority is going to be Shield Slam, Thunderclap, then Revenge. The vast majority of your rage is going to be spent through Ignore Pain and keeping Shield block up as much as possible when you're being attacked by blockable attacks. As for cooldown usage, because we're running Anger Management, our Last Stand and Shield Wall which are on 3 and 4 minute cooldowns respectively, have their cooldowns cut easily in half, usually a little over a minute for Last Stand and a minute and a half for Shield Wall. Because we have these available so often, it gives us more freedom with using Demoralizing Shout offensively with Battle Cry to deal damage. But this is situational though. Demoralizing Shout's best quality is that it reduces damage taken by 20%, but if you're confident that you won't need it for upcoming mechanics, especially if you have both Last Stand and Shield Wall off cooldown, then make use of Booming Voice by using it with Battle Cry to deal a lot more damage. Not to be forgotten, we also have our artifact ability, Neltharion's Fury, which is very strong physical damage reduction ability because it guarantees critical blocks on all attacks. This is very useful for bosses like Argus and Agrimar because we're able to critically block the Sweeping Scythe and Foe Breaker, which mitigates a ton of damage. Make use of this ability whenever you're going to be taking a high amount of blockable physical damage, and also when your shield block is on cooldown, this is a good ability to use while your shield block recharges. Last thing I'll touch on is Relics. There are 3 defensive traits that are top tier, then 2 that are decent. After that, you should avoid the rest of them as much as possible from a purely defensive point of view. The best trait for all-around tanking is Dragon Skin. Increasing the amount of damage Ignore Pain will ignore. This is the safest bet for every encounter to do well. The other 2 strong traits are Bastion of the Aspects, increases damage prevented through our block mechanic, and Vrykul's Shield Training, which just increases armor. After those top 3, then Toughness and Will to Survive are the only other traits that you should look at, giving a 1% increase in stamina per point and granting Last Stand an additional 10% health per point respectively. These are the only relics that will help you defensively to survive. There are a few that are good for offense that can be taken if you want to increase your damage, those being Thunder Crash, Rage of the Fallen, and Shatter the Bones. Thunder Crash and Rage of the Fallen are both increasing your AoE damage significantly and are the better of the 3, with Shatter the Bones increasing critical strike chance of Shield Slam by 5% per point during shield block. Shatter the Bones falls behind due to the high amount of uptime on Battle Cry because of Anger Management, plus the other 2 providing more damage and being usable for AoE instead of pure single target. That's going to be all for this quick guide on Protection Warrior tanking in patch 7.3.5 for Antorus the Burning Throne. Remember that this information is geared towards a raid tank instead of Mythic Plus, and was compiled using Wowhead, Warcraft logs, what I've learned on my own, and from other tanks in the game, and then what I've learned from the Protection Warrior Discord. If you have any questions, please leave a comment, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it helpful.